G'day, Flosstube. Anna here, aka Moranolis, coming to you on April 26th. Hope those of you who celebrate have had a nice Easter. For the Aussies and the Kiwis, hope you had a good Anzac Day yesterday. Not much going on around here except for stitching and not quite as fun housework, but it's certainly been, between the two holidays, nice to have some back-to-back time off. Sorry, trying to film outside today because it's a bit cooler. As you Game of Thrones fans would say, winter is coming. But the downside is we have road and we have cockatoos. So between the two of them, hopefully the background noise isn't too crazy. And earlier I was watching, you could see the cockatoos flying. So keep an eye out. You might see some cockies. Right, so where was I at? Way to disturb the train of thought, Mr. Cockatoo. So, right. Hope everybody had a good holidays. I spent yesterday finishing up, doing a fully finish on one of my mom's pieces. So, I don't know if I showed this when I brought it back from the States. I have no idea what the pattern is. No idea whether it was kit or leaflet. If anybody does know, please let me know in the comments. I'd kind of like to put a note on there to remember kind of where it came from. I haven't been able to find her pattern or anything she did it from. She's dated it 99, so 20 years ago. For 20 years, this has been sitting in a drawer somewhere. And she, when I was back in the States, she basically said, here's all this stuff I'm not going to use anymore. I can't see the cross stitch anymore. And this was in it. Well, it's a bit of a shame. All that work, 20 years in the drawer, figured it was high time it got fully finished. So, mounting, that was step one. And there was a bit of a stain. I think it was down there. So I just soaked that corner. I wasn't really game to get it all on the threads. The stain was on the fabric. But I did use a bit of nappy sand for the Aussies. And that seems, it's lightened it. It hasn't gotten rid of it completely, but it's light enough and it came around the bottom enough that I thought it's a non-issue. So, like I said, it wasn't really game to use it on the threads. But it's improved the situation, made it work rather than made it worse. So that's a start. Yeah, so that, hold on, I'm gonna grab. Those of you who saw the tally-ho piece I finished for her will kind of recognize this idea. Whoop, haven't hit the magnets. Oh, that's because I've got it the wrong way around and it won't line up. Okay. But when you get the magnets right, it'll stay put. Yeah, so that's what the finished piece looks like. Which, by the way, if you're raiding your husband's shed for washers to do a Priscilla and Chelsea magnet thing, be aware not all washers are actually made of something that sticks to a freaking magnet. Despite the fact your husband says, oh yeah, they'll all stick, it's all good, just grab whatever size you want. Found some nice conveniently sized one and they didn't stick. I'm like, Matthew, why not? It's like, oh, they're the expensive stainless steel sort. I didn't know I had any of those. Thanks. Anyway, so I had to unpick those and glue new washers on. Anyway, so basically leaves a bit of bling. Flowers are Wild Orchid Craft flowers. I forget where they're based, but international somewhere, not the US. And colored with Lindy's Stamp Gang. Okay. excuse me, colored with Lindy's Stamp Gang sprays in a variety of colors, just trying to pick up on the flowers. So the darker pink ones, trying to pick out of those pops. There's some peaches and some yellows. Don't know how well the colors are coming out. Some of you may have seen on Instagram, I was trying to decide what to do about this background matting fabric. I had a blue in my stash that was pretty close to this here. And there's blue flowers over here. And of course, the appeal was that it was right there. I didn't have to go to the store or anything. I could use it, but it wasn't really right. And then my daughter found another one that picked up on these reds, and she was a bit upset I didn't pick that one. But I think the gray is a better neutral. Like, in theory, being that this is on a magnet, you could swap this photo out, and so the gray would be easier to match with other things. The reality is I did the magnets and the stuff more so that you could take the stitching off, clean it, and whatnot, rather than swap out the whole piece. But in theory, if it was a similar color scheme and similar dimensions, you certainly could. The bits of baubles, I think I showed it several videos ago, some garland I cut these things off of. So again, got enough to do 50 bazillion projects, a bit of random lace that was floating around. I did have to go out and buy the leaves, and I'm not entirely fussed with the leaves. I think this is a bit gobby yet. I may trim that back and reposition some of those, but we shall see. For now, I'm pretty pleased. It needs hanging hardware, but again, it's just this junk plywood that I found in the shed. Bit of gray paint, and I don't know if you can see, there's Inca gold in sort of a really light gold around the edges, just to give it a bit of a definition. The tally-ho one, I had cut the boards a bit wonky, so it was a bit more rustic, and this one I've obviously left straight and flat. Can't think of anything. Try and get it back out so you can see the whole thing. Can't think of anything else super useful to tell you. I'll have to add hanging hardware to both of them before too long, and then hopefully next time we go back to the States, they will both go in the luggage and go back to the States, back to my mom, and she'll be able to hang them up and display them. And a bit of oh, that's the other thing I was going to mention. With all these bits and pieces and baubles and whatnot that I put on, I know a lot of people reach for their hot glue gun to put those on. Personally, I like the fact that the hot glue, it dries really fast, so there's no stuffing around waiting for it. But it doesn't hold for squat, if you ask me. So I tend to, particularly in a case like this, where I want it to hold so I can continue working, but I want it to hold permanently, not like hot glue, I will actually use a combination of hot glue and matte medium, which is something I had floating around from my scrapbooking days. And it basically, once that stuff sets, it's not going anywhere. But it's like a wet glue. It takes ages for it to set properly. Quacka! Off the sofa. Oi. Sorry, we have a naughty Kelpie who thinks because Mom is occupied, she can go sit on the sofa. It's not good. So, as far as my own stitching, my big push in the last couple of weeks since I've seen you has been to finish up that Halloween piece I've been working on. This is a series of panels, they were free, one a month, sort of free from Stony Creek. I think now if you go and buy them, they're like $4 for each design. And there's 6 of them, so 24-ish altogether. Shipping is what kills you from Stony Creek, at least shipping to Oz. Yeah, and there's buttons that will go on there eventually, but for the moment I'm still just a smidgen off finishing the stitching. But we have a couple of panels there. That panel, I can't remember if the spider webs and back wings was done when I showed this last or not, but that's now fully done. Yeah, I can't remember whether that was done or not. I'd have to go back and look. And the moon and stars is so close. I've run out of Krynic again. I'm waiting on, hopefully maybe it'll even show in the mail today, the Krynic to finish that off, and then I can finish the back stitching, and then this piece will be done. And so I'm pretty pleased with that. At this point, I think I'd like to just get it finished and get it off my wait list so that I can feel free to start something new with a little less guilt. Quokka, off the sofa. Naughty Kelpie. You want to come say hello? You can come say hello. Don't touch the stitching and don't drool on it. Come here. Come here. No, you just want to soak. Kelpie does not getting enough attention. Poor Kelpie. Okay, do not touch that. So, once I'd gotten to the point where I ran out of Krynic on that and was kind of scuppered on being able to make any more progress, I went back to the Magical Stitches homework, and Magical Stitches said I had to work on something. Oh, we had upset the Whomping Willow, so we had to work on something with the tree. So I've been avoiding the tree in this peacock piece. Very convenient, as it turns out. So I've started adding the leaves and the flowers, a bit more leaf down here, to do that. Predominantly, a lot of the work I've been doing has been down here in the tail, trying to basically finish up that bit. I must be getting pretty close to the end of that corner. A little bit would have been added up in the head as the greens. Quokka, off the sofa. As the greens, they're the same greens in these tail feathers here, so I generally tend to use up the rest of the thread up there if I haven't got any more. But you can see now I got a few more to fill in down there. So, yeah, fair bit of progress on that piece. Not quite close enough. I still have all the background stuff to figure out what I want to do with. I did look, a lot of that background texture is in 3 different colors. One is the peach, the one I'm concerned about it being too close to the background fabric. One is the a brown, a light brown, and one is a green, I believe. So, yeah, I guess I had kind of expected it to be like, you know, darker peach, medium peach, lighter peach, you know, something like that, a monochromatic darker to lighter blend, but it's not. It's like 3 different colors. So I haven't decided how I will deal with that lightest peach. This fabric, for anybody that's interested, is 32 count Belfast in Sweet Cherry Pie from Color Cascades. I forgot to mention the other Halloween one was 32 count Belfast in Stormy Nights. have no idea who makes that Stormy Nights one. I just picked it up from the shop. But it's a printed rather than a dyed, whereas this one's dyed. So, yeah. I expect now that I've started the tree, I'll try and get a fair bit more progress in on the tree, and finish up this little corner of tail just so I can knock it out. Yeah, but making good progress there. All right, so the last thing I've been working on finally got pulled out again. My favorite. You'll figure out which way's up. There you go. So I've been working down towards the second fish pond. This thing is getting so big, it's impossible to show, hence the reason I did the up close last week. But I think I'll give it a couple of weeks and then I'll do an up close. I thought as well with the Halloween one, once I finish it, I will do an up close one of that so you can see in a bit better detail. So little bits of infill, you'll notice I had to take my T out, so now I have to figure out which way is up all the time again, but it was interfering. I don't know if you can tell, there's a little rim of gold that I had to put in there. All the bonsai pots are now outlined, and their little bits of rocks are all outlined. A few of them have little tufts of grass I need to go back and put in, but that kind of irked me. I think I have to open up a brand new skein of thread that I bought for about, a half dozen, maybe a dozen back stitches, little tufts of grass. And as far as I can tell, that's the only place that thread is used in the whole pattern. It seems crazy. And maybe I'm missing it. Maybe it is there somewhere in the specialty or details for the outside ring that I haven't seen it yet. But at this point, it's just a few tufts on the bonsai pot. And I'm like, oh, I hope I didn't buy a whole Gloriana just for half a dozen back stitches. But all good. So I've come around. I finished all the tree up to here. I finished this stone lantern. And everything in this top of the arch gate is all finished and filled in all the missing stitches. And so I'm now starting the middle section with the pot. I got started this morning, and the first thing I had to do was frog out some of the silk lame braid. And it's like, oh, really? Like, honestly, that silk lame braid is so nice for a metallic, you can't hardly complain, but I hate seeing it come out. Fortunately, it wasn't very much, just a little bit around here where the fish's head is meant to go. And I stitched a bunch of water in there instead, so I don't really know how I mucked up the counting so badly, but clearly I need to pay more attention. So I will say I've had a couple of people reach out on Instagram when this came back out to say they had bought a chatelaine and this pattern and stuff based on, seeing in here. And I've got to say, guys, I am so pleased that, I can enable. I love the thought that, you pick up and try something new because you've seen what I did. So good luck with it. If you have any questions, let me know. Because I know, like, I've stitched for more years than I care to admit. 35-ish years now. And the first time I read Martina's pattern, and I'm not talking the cross-stitchy parts, I'm talking the just trying to comprehend what specialty stitches go where and what speeds versus stitches, and oh, mind blown. So for somebody with 35 years worth of experience to have that much of a pause trying to put this together, I'm seriously impressed with people who tackle one of these with not that background. The actual specialty stitches themselves never scared me. I can read a chart and I can figure out how to make them. But comprehending the way the pattern is written and knowing that this is supposed to be a rice stitch with certain colors, it's a complicated pattern. And so, yeah, it took me a minute. But I don't want to scare anybody off either. Really, once you work out how Martina usually works, you're right as good rain. You know, it's easy peasy. So I think all my difficulties really were getting to the point with that outside stepping stones. What have I got? A bit of fribbles with these outside stepping stones. Once I had read and interpreted her pattern enough to figure out what specialty stitches went where in this center garden, you know, I was good. Well, they must be beads. I thought I missed some rice stitches. You know, so, and there's been absolutely no dramas once you work out how Martina usually lays out her patterns. But be prepared for an instant of what the heck did I do? But it's okay. There's a Facebook group. I'll try and remember to put a link. And the ladies in there are fantastically supportive. And every time I've had a question, whether it be that initial stitch do I put where moment, or things like only having the black and white pattern and it didn't tell me the colors I should have, at least not in a fashion that I could interpret, they have always stepped in, and very minimal time I've got my answer and I'm on my way. So they well worth joining that Facebook group if you're going to do a chatelaine and just want a bit of a backup, because you'll get an answer quick smart. Yeah, so that I think will predominantly, at least until the Kreinik comes to finish the Halloween piece, the Moss Garden will be the project of the month for a while. As far as what I'm planning on tackling next, we have that Aura of Autumn piece that I've been talking about. That's now kitted up. I've got the fabric, all the rest of it. Our anniversary is on the 29th, which is 3 days. I should probably go find an anniversary present. Seems to me we were just talking about something. Remember that. So I'm thinking maybe I will start that on the 29th. Might be a good time to do it. At least that's my plan for the moment, for the day. Tomorrow it may change. The other thing I've been slowly kitting up is, I don't know if I showed this one, probably when it arrived. I've been looking at all the mirabilias and stuff that everybody does, and they're so phenomenal when you get them done. So I wanted to do something similar. Clearly this is not a mirabilia, but I loved the colors. So I thought I would do this one. So I've got all the DMC. I've converted the Kreinik it calls for to treasure braid, and bought that. I have not figured out fabric for this yet. If anybody has any great ideas, I'm thinking I might try and dye a fabric for this. Essentially, I just don't want to wait months and months and months for it to show up. So, yeah, I may try and dye my own fabric for that, but then I probably won't get super fancy. Maybe just blues, greens, I don't know. I'll pick a color and do, you know, lighter shade, darker shade. But honestly, I don't even know what color I want to put in the background of that. I don't know. Brilliant ideas, let me know, because at the moment, that's my big stumbling block. I had to laugh. My son was giving me grief, and he says, "Mom, what are you starting next?" And it was right after this pattern had showed up, and I it was at the forefront of my mind. And I said, oh, well, I'm buying stuff to do this. I didn't actually have the pattern on hand to show them the picture. So I was just describing it, the lady with, the big feathers and fancy dress. And he's like, oh, so basically a human peacock. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty close. It works. Bit of a fiery peacock, but pretty good. I thought that was funny. So what else? Oh, one of my last color cascades have shown up. Let's see, I can get it out of the packet. Sorry, should have done that before. But, I'm not gonna be able to see anything without my board. You can get the colors, it's pretty washed out. It's a real subtle blues and pinks. It's called Lotus Flower. So it's a 32 count Belfast. The January fabric of the month. So I should get February yet eventually. Oh, and that's a Color Cascades fabric. You know what I forgot to bring? I forgot to bring my silk flosses. I think I did. That's a bit of a bummer. I'll just tell you about them. Anyway, fabric of the month, should get one more and then that's it. I've been debating, I really kind of want to replace that subscription with another subscription. And I'm thinking of trying that XG Designs. I haven't decided whether there's like a 3-month subscription, so I think I'll start with that as a trial. And it's got a bright colorway or a primitive. Now clearly I don't do a great deal of the whole primitive stitching style thing, but I thought it might be good to have a few extra, real neutral sort of fabrics on hand. So I'm thinking maybe I should sign up for that, but at the same time, the bright colors, they're a pretty bunch. So maybe I should sign up for that one instead. And the only thing I know is I'm not getting both of them. I got to make the right choice and stick with it for 3 months. And then, at the end of 3 months, you could change to the other one, I suppose. So there's that. The other thing that came in is my card. So the Stash Building Dinky Dyes Floss of the Month Club. So that was 5 of the next 5 Dinky Dyes. And I think I showed these last time because there was the Silks for You, and they had no names for them, but they were a real blue theme. I'm sure I said that last time. And I think that's the only one I've done. I'm getting terribly confused. I'm going to have to go back and watch my own videos to remember what I've said before I try and do another one. Right, so the only other thing I've worked on in the last while has been my knitting, and I'm continuing to, oops, don't fall off the needle because I'm not that clever at fixing it yet. I've been continuing to make progress. So it doesn't look like it, but it is longer than the last time I showed you. I think the last time I showed you it only came to about that edge of that square. So I did I've been trying to average about 10 rows a weekend. It's too much for me to try and concentrate on and whatnot during the week when I'm generally, mind is focused on work and all the rest of it. I just can't handle the counting and what did I do now during the week. So this has been a weekend project, and I've been keeping up despite the fact my rows are getting longer and longer. I've been keeping up with 10 rows a weekend. I've had basically I get to the point now where I can do 3 or 4 rows, and then it's like, oh frig, I've stuffed something up somewhere, my counts are off. You know, so I mean, even that is an improvement because originally, you know, I think I said the first time I showed this that the first 10 rows I had to do that about 8-10 times, trying to get through 10 rows and even understand what mistake I'd made, never mind how to rectify it or anything. So now I've gotten to the point where I'm sure I'm buggering up the pattern a little bit, but I understand how to rectify it, at least to get the counts back. Occasionally I will catch it early enough that I can actually rectify it and save the pattern. But at this point, I'm more concerned about keeping forward progress, getting to the end of this project, and then I fully intend to do it a second time so that I have a first effort and a second effort to put them side by side and see the difference. But I'm pretty pleased. I can definitely find a few areas where the pattern's a bit wonky. I don't know that I can do it now, but I have seen them as I go look for them. The bugger is when I put this away last weekend, I had a extra stitch in this row. As per usual, don't know how it got there. Probably an accidental yarn over would be my guess. But now I got to figure out how I'm going to fix it. But I have also figured out basically if I catch it early enough, I will try and do the mistakey bit over here on the ends. I figure it'll be less obvious in the finished piece, hopefully. So, continuing to make progress on that. However, because I was getting to the point where now my rows are really long, I got a whole bunch of extra stitch counters in here. And these are just boring plastic. They're not even pretty colors. And what's life without pretty colors? You know, that's boring. So my daughter and I dragged out all the beading stuff, at least all the beading stuff we can find, intending to make little stitch counter things for me. So that's the only one I actually made out of the beading stuff, because I've got about 4 boxes of beads floating around somewhere. Do you think I can actually find them? The top I just twisted out of some wire that I had. I don't know if you can see the yeah. A lot of these that I've been looking at on the internet, they have like a lobster clasp shape. There you can see the shape a little bit. A lobster clasp clips, so you can put them over the needle or whatever. But the lobster clasps that I knew I had in my stash didn't hold very well. I didn't want to use them. So I saw some that had that bent wire sort of design, and I thought, oh, I can bend wire. The problem is the heaviest wire that I had on hand was 20 gauge. And I just wasn't convinced how well it would handle banging around and stuff. Maybe it'll be fine. It's not super flimsy, but I would have tried some heavier gauge stuff if I'd had it. And if I do have it, I can't find it. I got to get into this craft room and get things organized